With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 350 plus undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu. At Arizona State University, we've made online education better, smarter, and more personalized so you can go further in your aspiring field.
I decided to pursue medicine once I realized that ASU did have the online program for biological sciences. You're still required to learn the same curriculum. You're still being tested on the same content that anyone would be tested on in person. The comprehensiveness of the program prepared me so well for medical school.
Explore over 350 plus programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Welcome, welcome, crew, guys, gals, ghouls, and other worldly beings. Let's climb aboard the mothership, secure our tinfoil hats, and buckle down tight as we hold on loosely. As we soar over the rocky tops of the La Platas on a rocky mountain high, get sucked into the vortex of the Four Corners, and settle down snugly at mile marker 420 in colorful Colorado. I'm your host, TessaTNT, and we are broadcasting live from the Mile High Clubhouse tonight. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, and welcome to We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in Rockies. Thank you so much for tuning in and hanging out. It's an honor and a pleasure to be with you, have you here tonight, and partake in story time. If you want to listen in your free time, whether you're working it, or working out, please feel free to find me on Spreaker.com under We Are Paradox Media, or wherever else you may listen to your podcast. You should find us there under We Are Paradox Media. So last night turned out good. I had to use my little router booster in here, and so I was able to get nice clear reception so far as I know. Hopefully when I check it out on YouTube it is the same. I hope. We also, me and my son and his friend did some ghost hunting last night after I did the podcast and uploaded it and everything, and it turned out really, really good. We mostly used the EMF detector. We used the FLIR camera, because I'm like, okay, all of us, let's pick one item each, and then we'll also take the ghost box. And so we did the Estes method with that, as we're asking questions and my son is being the conduit. His friend's looking around with the FLIR camera, and I don't know how many times he said he was done, but he hung in there. He stuck around, and we didn't let it go too far, but I wasn't going to throw in the towel too early as well. He liked it so much that he's staying another night over here, so most likely we're going to be doing some ghost hunting, aka paranormal investigating, around midnight. So I'm wanting to upload the videos that I took last night, and then I want to take more video tonight and upload that as well. So hopefully you guys will enjoy it as much as I did. Also, like, when I do upload that, you'll probably notice that I was laughing in the beginning, and it's because my son put on the eye coverage upside down, and it's got a set of eyes on it with eyebrows, and he put it on upside down, so it just looked like a different character. You can still see the eyeballs and everything, but the eyebrows now look like one of those thin mustaches. So I kept giggling at that because I just thought it was so funny. But then I got a hold of myself and I quit laughing because, I didn't want him to feel awkward or anything. But yeah, hopefully when you see this video, if you see this video, when I upload it, I'll let you guys know, but hopefully you'll see what I'm talking about. Alright, so let's get into it. Before we move on to our book by Stephen King, Cell, we're going to be reading the quote of the hour. Alright, so it says, before flaring up at the fault of others, pause and count 10 of your own. So, yeah, don't be judging people. It's not your place to judge. Do you like to be judged? I don't, so I don't judge. Alright. I was going to say, unless it's like a trauma or therapist or whatever else. Alright. Not quite all of it, Tom said. I had a driving dream. Yeah, you drove, Jordan said quietly. Only for an hour or so, but you drove. That was when we also dreamed we were sleeping in that motel, the Twilight place. I dreamed of driving too. It was like a dream inside of a dream, only that one was real. You see, Tom said, smiling at Clay. He ruffled Jordan's heavy pelt. On some level, Jordan knew all along. Virtual reality, Jordan said. That's all it was, like being in a video game almost. And it wasn't all that good. He looked north in the direction the Raggedy Man had disappeared. In the direction of Koshwak. It'll get better if they get better. Sons of bitches can't do it all after dark, Ray said. They have to go fucking Betty by. And at the end of the day, so did we, Dan said. That was their purpose, to wear us out so completely that we couldn't figure out what was going on even when night came and their control slipped. During the day, the president of Harvard was always close, along with a good-sized flock, sending out that mental force field of theirs, creating Jordan's virtual reality. Must have been, Denise said. Yeah. All this had been going on, Clay calculated, while he had been sleeping in the caretaker's cottage. Wearing us out wasn't all they wanted, Tom said. Even turning us back north wasn't all they wanted. They also wanted us all together again. The five of them had come to a tumble-down motel on Route 47, main Route 47, not too far south of Great Works. The sense of dislocation, Tom said, had been enormous. The sound of flock music not too far distant had not helped. They all had a sense of what must have happened, but it was Jordan who had verbalized it, as it had been Jordan who pointed out the obvious. Their escape attempt had failed. Yes, they could probably slip out of the motel where they found themselves and start west again, but how far would they get this time? They were exhausted. Worse, they were disheartened. It was also Jordan who pointed out that the phoners might even have arranged for a few enormous spies to track their nighttime movements. We ate, Denise said, because we were starving as well as tired. Then we went to bed for real and slept until the next morning. I was the first up, Tom said. The Raggedy Man himself was standing in the courtyard.
At Arizona State University, we've made online education better, smarter, and more personalized so you can go further in your aspiring field.
I decided to pursue medicine once I realized that ASU did have the online program for biological sciences. You're still required to learn the same curriculum. You're still being tested on the same content that anyone would be tested on in person. The comprehensiveness of the program prepared me so well for medical school.
Explore over 350 plus programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
He made a little bow to me and waved his hand at the road. Clay remembered the gesture well. The road is yours. Go on and take it. I could have shot him, I suppose. I had Sir Speedy, but what good would that have done? Clay shook his head. Not good at all. They had gotten back on the road, first walking up Route 47. Then Tom said they'd felt themselves mentally nudged onto an unmarked woods road that actually seemed to meander southeast. No visions this morning? Clay asked. No dreams? Nope, Tom said. They knew we'd gotten the point. They could read minds after all. They heard us yell uncle, Dad said in that beaten, bitter tone. Ray, do you happen to have an extra cigarette? I quit, but maybe I'll take the habit up again. Ray tossed him the pack without a word. It's like being nudged by a hand, only inside your brain, Tom said. Not at all nice, intrusive in a way I can't even begin to describe, and all this time there was the sense of the Raggedy Man and his flock moving with us. Sometimes we saw a few of them through the trees, most times not. So they're not just flocking early and late now, Clay said. No, all that's changed, Dan said. Jordan's got a theory, interesting and with some evidence to back it up. Besides, we constitute a special occasion. He lit a cigarette, inhaled, coughed. Shit, I knew there was a reason I gave these things up. And then, with hardly a pause, they can float, levitate. Must be a hell of a handy way to get around with the road so jammed, like having a magic carpet. A mile or so up the seemingly pointless woods road, the five of them had discovered a cabin with a pickup parked in front. Keys in the truck. Ray drove. Tom and Jordan rode in the truck bed. None of them were surprised when the woods road eventually bent north again. Just before it petered out, the navigation beacon in their heads sent them onto another, then a third that was little more than a track with weeds growing up the middle. That one eventually drowned in a boggy patch where the truck mired, but an hour's slog brought them out on Route 11, just south of that highway's junction with 160. Couple of dead phoners there, Tom said. Fresh, downed powered lines snapped off poles. The crows were having a banquet. Clay thought of telling them what he'd seen at the Gurleyville Volunteer Fire Department, then didn't. If it had any bearing on the present situation, he didn't see it. Sometimes there were plenty who weren't fighting with each other, and these had kept forcing Tom and the others onward. That force hadn't led them to the little yellow bus. Ray had found it as a result of exploring the Newfield trading post while the others were scrounging sodas from the very same cooler Clay had raided. Ray saw it through a back window. They had stopped only once since then to build a fire on the granite floor of the Gurleyville quarry and eat a hot meal. They had also changed into fresh footwear from the Newfield trading post. Their bog slog had left all of them muddy from the shins down, and had an hour's rest. They must have driven past Clay at the Gurleyville motel right around the time he was waking up, because they were nudged to a stop shortly after that. "And here we are," Tom said. "Case almost closed." He swept an arm at the sky, the land, the trees. "Someday, son, all of this will be yours." "That pushing thing has gone out of my head, at least for the time being," Denise said. "I'm grateful for that. The first day was the worst, you know. I mean, Jordan had the clearest idea that something was wrong, but I think all of us knew it wasn't, really right." "Yeah," Ray said. He rubbed the back of his neck. "It was like being in a kid's story where the birds and snakes talk. They say stuff like, 'You're okay, you're fine, never mind that your legs are so tired, you're Deanie cool.'" Deanie cool. That's what we used to say when I was growing up in Lynn. Lynn? Lynn. City of sin. When you get to heaven, they won't let you in, Tom chanted. "You grew up with the Christers, all right," Ray said. "Anyway, the kid knew better. I knew better. I think we all knew fucking better. If you had half a brain and still thought you were getting away." "I believed as long as I could because I wanted to believe," Dan said. "But in truth, we never had a chance. Other normies might, but not us. Not flock killers. They mean to have us, no matter what happens to them." "What do you think they've got in mind for us?" Clay asked. "Oh, death," Tom said, almost without interest. "At least I'll be able to get some decent sleep." Clay's mind finally caught up with a couple of things and latched on earlier in the conversation. Dan had said their normal behavior was changing, and Jordan had a theory about it. Just now he'd said, no matter what happens to them. "I saw a pair of phones, got at each other not far from here." Clay finally told him. "Did you?" Dan said without much interest. "At night," he added, and now they all looked at him. They were fighting over a fire truck, like a couple of kids over a toy. I got some of that telepathy from one of them, but they were both talking. "Talking?" Denise asked skeptically. "Like actual words?" "Actual words. The clarity was in and out, but they were definitely words. How many fresh dead have you seen, guys? Just those two?" Dan said, "We've probably seen a dozen since we woke up to where we really are." He looked at the others. Tom, Denise, and Jordan nodded. Ray shrugged and lit another cigarette. "But it's hard to tell about the cause of death. They might be reverting. That fits Jordan's theory, although the talking doesn't seem to. They might have just been corpses the flocks haven't gotten around to getting rid of. Body disposal isn't a priority for them right now. We're their priority, and they'll be moving us along pretty soon," Tom said. "I don't think we get the big stadium treatment until tomorrow, but I'm pretty sure they want us in Koshwak before dark tonight." "Jordan, what's your theory?" Clay asked. Jordan said, "I think there was a worm in the original program." 2. "I don't understand," Clay said, "but that's par for the course. When it came to computers, I could use Word, Adobe Illustrator, and MacMel. After that, I was pretty much illiterate. Johnny had to walk me through the solitaire program that came with my Mac, talking about that hurt remembering Johnny's hand closing over his on the mouse hurt more. But you know what a computer worm is, right? Something that gets into your computer and screws up all the programs, right?" Jordan rolled his eyes but said, "Close enough." it can burrow in, corrupting your files and your hard drive as it goes. If it gets into shareware and the stuff you send, even email attachments, and they do, it can go viral and spread. Sometimes a worm has babies. The worm itself is a mutant, and sometimes the babies mutate further. Okay? Okay. The Pulse was a computer program sent out by modem, and that's the only way it could work. And it's still being sent out by modem. Only there was a worm in there, and it's rotting out the program. It's becoming more corrupted every day. Gigo. Do you know Gigo? Clay said, I don't even know the way to San Jose. Stands for garbage in, garbage out. We think that there are conversion points where the phoners are changing lines over. Clay remembered his dream. I'm way ahead of you there. But now they're getting bad programming, do you see? And it makes sense because it's the newest phoners who seem to be going down first. Fighting, freaking out, or actually dropping dead. You don't have enough data to say that, Clay replied at once. He was thinking of Johnny. Jordan's eyes had been bright, now they dulled a little. That's true. Then his chin lifted, but it's logical. If the premise is right, if it's a worm, something actively burrowing deeper and deeper into the original programming, then it's every bit as logical as the Latin they use. The new phoners are rebooting, but now it's a crazy, uneven reboot. They get the telepathy, but they can still talk. They. Jordan, you can't draw that conclusion on just the two I saw. Jordan was paying no attention. He was really talking to himself now. They don't flock like the others, not as completely, because the flocking imperative is imperfectly installed. Instead, they stay up late and get up early. They revert to aggression against their own kind. And if it's getting worse, don't you see? The newest phoners would be the first ones to get messed up. It's like in War of the Worlds, Tom said dreamily. Huh? Denise said. I didn't see that movie. It looked too scary. The invaders were killed by microbes our bodies tolerate easily, Tom said. Wouldn't it be poetic justice if the phone crazies all died of a computer virus? I'd settled for aggression, Dan said. Let them kill each other in one big battle royale. Clay was still thinking about Johnny. Sharon too, but mostly Johnny. Johnny who'd written, "Please come get me," in those big capital letters, and then signed all three names, as if that would somehow add weight to his plea. Ray Huizinga said, "It's gonna do us any good unless it happens tonight." He stood up and stretched. "They'll be pushing us on pretty quick. I'm gonna pause to do me a little necessary while I've got the time. Don't go without me." "Not in the bus, we won't," Tom said as Ray started up the hiking trail. "You've got the keys in your pocket." "Hope everything comes out all right, Ray," Denise said sweetly. "Nobody loves a smartass, darling," Ray said, and disappeared from view. "What are they going to do to us?" Clay asked. "Any ideas about that?" Jordan shrugged. "It may be like a closed-circuit TV hookup, only with a lot of different ideas of the country participating. Maybe even the whole world. The size of the stadium makes me think that. And the Latin, of course," Dan said. "It's a kind of lingua franca." "Why do they need one?" Clay asked. "They're telepaths." "But they still think mostly in words," Tom said. "At least so far. In any case, they do mean to execute us, Clay. Jordan thinks so, Dan does, and so do I." "So do I," Denise said in a small, Morse voice, and caressed the curve of her belly. Tom said, "Latin is more than a lingua franca. It's the language of justice, and we've seen it used by them before." Gunnar and Harold, yes, Clay nodded. Jordan has another idea, Tom said. I think you need to hear it, Clay, just in case. Jordan? Jordan shook his head. I can't. Tom and Dan Hartwick looked at each other. Well, one of you tell me, Clay said. I mean, Jesus! So it was Jordan after all. Because they're telepaths. They know who our loved ones are, he said. Clay searched for some sinister meaning in this and didn't find it. So? I have a brother in Providence, Tom said. If he's one of them, he'll be my executioner. If Jordan's right, that is. My sister, Dan Hartwick said. My floor proctor, Jordan said. He was very pale. The one with the megapixel Nokia phone that shows video downloads? My husband, Denise said, and burst into tears. Unless he's dead, I pray to God he is dead. For a moment, Clay still didn't get it, and then he thought, John? My Johnny? He saw the Raggedy Man holding a hand over his head, heard the Raggedy Man pronouncing sentence, Eso homo insanus, and saw his son walking toward him, wearing his Little League cap turned around backwards and his favorite Red Sox shirt, the one with Tim Wakefield's name and number on it. Johnny, small beneath the eyes of the millions watching via the miracle of closed circuit, flock-boosted telepathy. Little Johnny G smiling, empty-handed, armed with nothing but the teeth in his head. 3. It was Ray who broke the silence, although Ray wasn't even there. Ah, Jesus! Coming from the little distance up the hiking hill. Fuck! Then, yo, Clay! What's up? Clay called back. You've lived up here all your life, right? Ray didn't sound like a happy camper. Clay looked at the others, who returned only blank stares. Jordan shrugged and flipped his palms outward for one heartbreaking moment, becoming a near teenager instead of just another refugee from the phone war. Well, downstate, but yeah. Clay stood up. What's the problem? So, you know what poison ivy and poison oak looks like, right? Denise started to break up and clap both hands over her mouth. Yeah, Clay said. He couldn't help smiling himself, but he knew what it looked like for sure. Had warned Johnny and his backyard buddies off enough of it in his time. Well, get up here and take a look, Grace said, and come on your own. Then, with hardly a pause, Denise, I don't need telepathy to know you're laughing. Put a sock in it, girl. Clay left the picnic area, walking past the sign reading, If you go, take a map. And then beside the pretty little brook. Everything in the woods was pretty now, a spectrum of furnace colors mixed with time. Mixed with sturdy, never-changing green of firs, and he supposed, not for the first time either, that if men and women owed God a death, there were worse seasons of the year in which to pay up. He had expected to come upon Ray with his hands loosened or actually around his ankles, but Ray was standing on a carpet of pine needles and his pants were buckled. There were no bushes at all where he was, not poison ivy or anything else. He was as pale as Alice had been when she plunged into the Nickersons' living room to vomit. His skin so white it looked dead, only his eyes still had life. They burned in his face. Come here, he said, in a prison-yard whisper. Clay could hardly hear him over the noisy chuckle of the brook. Quick, we don't have much time. Ray, what the hell? Just listen. Dan and your pal Tom, they're too smart. Jordy, too. Sometimes thinking gets in the way. Denise is better, but she's pregnant. Can't trust a pregnant woman, so you're it, Mr. Artist. I don't like it because you're still holding on to your kid, but your kid's over. In your heart, you know it. Your kid is toast. Everything all right back there, you guys? Denise called. And numb as he was, Clay could hear the smile in her voice. Ray, I don't know what... No. And that's how it's gonna stay. Just listen. What the fuck in the red hoodie wants isn't gonna happen if you don't let it. That's all you need to know. Ray reached into the pocket of his chinos and brought out a cell phone and a scrap of paper. The phone was gray with grime, as if it had spent most of its life in a working environment. Put it in your pocket. When the time comes, call the number on that slip. You'll know the time. I gotta hope you'll know. Clay took the phone. It was either take it or drop it. The little slip of paper escaped his fingers. Get that! Ray whispered fiercely. Clay bent and picked up the scrap of paper. 10 digits were scrawled on it. The first 3 were the main area code. Ray, they read minds. If I have this... Ray's mouth stretched in a terrible parody of a grin. Yeah, he whispered. They peek in your head and find out you're thinking about a fucking cell phone. What else is anyone thinking about since October 1st? Those of us who can still fucking think, that is. Clay looked at that dirty, battered cell phone. There were 2 Dymo tape strips on the casing. The top one read, Mr. Fogarty. The bottom one read, Prop, Gurleyville Quarry, do not remove. Put it in your fucking pocket. It wasn't the urgency of the command that made him obey. It was the urgency of those desperate eyes. Clay began to put the phone and the scrap of paper in his pocket. He was wearing jeans, which made the pocket a tighter fit than Ray's chinos. He was looking down to open the pocket wider when Ray reached forward and pulled Clay's .45 from its holster. When Clay looked up, Ray already had the barrel under his chin. You'll be doing your kid a favor, Clay, believe it. That's no fucking way to live. Ray, no. Ray pulled the trigger. The soft-nosed American Defender round took off the entire top of his head. Crows rose from the trees in a multitude. Clay hadn't even known they were there, but now they swallowed the autumn air with their cries. For a little while, he drowned them out with his own. 4. They had barely started scraping him a grave in the soft dark earth under the firs when the phoners reached into their heads. Clay was feeling that combined power for the first time. It was as Tom had said, like being nudged in the back by a powerful hand. If that was, both the hand and the back were inside of your head. No words, just that push. Let us finish, he shouted, and immediately responded to himself in a slightly higher register that he recognized at once. No, go, now. 5 minutes, he said. This time the flock voice used Denise. Go, now. Tom tumbled Ray's body, the remains of the head wrapped in one of the headrest covers from the bus, into the hole and kicked in some dirt. Then he grabbed the sides of his head, grimacing. Okay, he said, and immediately answered himself. Go now. They walked back down the hiking path to the picnic area, Jordan leading the way. He was very pale, but Clay didn't think he was as pale as Ray had been in the last minute of his life. Not even close. That's no fucking way to live. His final words. Standing at parade rest across the road in a line that stretched to both horizon lines, maybe half a mile in all, were phoners. There had to be 400 of them, but Clay didn't see the Raggedy Man. He supposed the Raggedy Man had gone on to prepare the way, for in his house there were many mansions. With a phone extension in every one, Clay thought. As they trooped toward the minibus, he saw 3 of the phoners fall out of line. 2 of them began biting and fighting and tearing at each other's clothes, snarling what could have been words. Clay thought he heard the phrase, bitch kick, but he supposed it might just have been a coincidental occurrence of syllables. The third simply turned and began walking away, hiking down the white line toward Bayfield. That's right, fall out, soldier, Denise yelled hysterically. All of you fall out. But they didn't. And before the deserter, if that was what he was, had gotten to the curve where Route 160 swept out of sight to the south, an elderly but powerfully built phoner simply shot out his arms, grasped the hiker's head, and twisted it to one side. The hiker collapsed to the pavement. Ray had the keys, Dan said in a tired voice. Most of his ponytail had come undone and his hair spilled over his shoulders. Somebody will have to go back and... I got them, Clay said, and I'll drive. He opened the side door of the little bus, feeling that steady beat, 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 push, push, push in his head. There was blood and dirt on his hands. He could feel the weight of the cell phone in his pocket and had a funny thought. Maybe Adam and Eve had picked a few apples before being driven out of Eden. A little something to munch while on the long and dusty road to 700 television channels and backpack bombs in the London subway system. Get in, everybody. Tom gave him a look. You don't have to sound so goddamn cheerful, Van Gogh. Why not? Clay said, smiling. He wondered if his smile looked like Ray's, that awful end-of-life rictus. At least I won't have to listen to your bullshit much longer. Hop aboard. Next stop, Hushwalk. No foe. But before anyone got on the bus, they were made to throw away their guns. This didn't come as a mental command, nor was their motor control overridden by some superior force. Clay didn't have to watch as something made his hand reach down and pluck the .45 from its holster. He didn't think the phoners could do that, at least not yet. They couldn't even do the ventriloquism thing unless they were allowed to. Instead, he felt something like an itch, a terrible one, just short of intolerable, inside his head. Oh, Mary, Denise cried in a low voice, and threw the little .22 she carried in her belt as far as she could. It landed on the road. Dan threw his own pistol after it, then added his hunting knife for good measure. The knife flew blade first, almost to the far side of Route 160, but none of the phoners standing there flinched. Jordan dropped the pistol he was carrying to the ground beside the bus. Then, whining and twitching, he tore into his pack and tossed away the one Alice had been carrying. Tom added Sir Speedy. Clay contributed the .45 to the other weapons beside the bus. It had been unlucky for two people since the Pulse, and he wasn't terribly sorry to see it go. There, he said. He spoke to the watching eyes and dirty faces, many of them mutilated, that were watching from across the road, but it was the Raggedy Man he was visualizing. That's all of them. Are you satisfied? And unanswered himself at once. Why did he do it? Clay swallowed. It wasn't just the phoners who wanted to know. Dan and the others were watching him too. Jordan, he saw, was holding on to Tom's belt, as if he feared Clay's answer the way a toddler might fear a busy street, one full of speeding trucks. Well, he said your way was no way to live, Clay said. He took my gun and blew his head off before I could stop him. Silence except for the cawing of crows. Then Jordan spoke, flat and declamatory. Our way is the only way. Dan was next, just as flat. Unless they feel rage, they feel nothing, Clay thought. Get on the bus. They got on the bus. Clay slid behind the wheel and started the engine. He headed north on Route 160. He had been rolling less than a minute when he became aware of movement on his left. It was the phoners. They were moving north along the shoulder, above the shoulder, in a straight line, as if on an invisible conveyor belt running maybe 8 inches over the dirt. Then, up ahead, where the road crested, they rose much higher to perhaps 15 feet, making a human arc against the dull, mostly cloudy sky. Watching the phoners disappear over the top of the hill was like watching people ride the mild swell of an invisible roller coaster. Then the graceful symmetry broke. One of the rising figures fell like a bird shot from a duck blind, dropping at least 7 feet to the side of the road. There was a man in the tattered remains of a jogging suit. He spun furiously in the dirt, kicking with one leg, dragging the other. As the bus rolled past him at a steady 15 miles an hour, Clay saw the man's face was drawn down in a grimace of fury, and his mouth was working as he spewed out what was almost surely his dying declaration. "So now we know," Tom said hollowly. He was sitting with Jordan on the bench at the back of the bus, in front of the luggage area where their packs were stowed. Primates give rise to man. Man gives rise to phoners. Phoners give rise to levitating telepaths with Tourette's syndrome. Evolution complete. Jordan said, "What's Tourette's syndrome?" Tom said, "Fucked if I know, son." And incredibly, they were all laughing. Soon they were roaring, even Jordan, who didn't know what he was laughing at, while the little yellow bus rolled slowly north, with the phoners passing it and then rising, in a seemingly endless procession. Kashwak. 1. An hour after leaving the picnic area where Ray had shot himself with Clay's gun, they passed a sign reading, North County's Expo, October 5th through 15th. Come one, come all. Visit Kashwak Hall. And don't forget the unique North End. Slots including Texas Hold'em, Indian Bingo. You'll say, wow! "Oh my God," Clay said. "The Expo, Kashwak Hall, Christ. If there was ever a place for a flock, that's it." "What's an expo?" Denise asked. "Your basic county fair," Clay said. "Only bigger than most of them and quite a lot wilder because it's on the TR, which is unincorporated. Also, there's that North End business. Everyone in Maine knows about the North End at the North End County's Expo. In its own way, it's as notorious as the Twilight Motel." Tom wanted to know what the North End was, but before Clay could explain, Denise said, "There's 2 more, Mary and Jesus. I know they're phoners, but it still makes me sick." A man and a woman lay in the dust at the side of the road. They had died either in an embrace or a bitter battle, and embracing did not seem to go with the phoner lifestyle. They had passed half a dozen other bodies on their run north, almost certainly casualties from the flock that had come down to get them, and had seen twice that number wandering aimlessly south, sometimes alone, sometimes in pairs. One of the pairs, clearly confused about where they wanted to go, had actually tried to hitchhike the bus as it passed. "Wouldn't it be nice if they'd all either fall out or drop dead before what they've got planned for us tomorrow?" Tom said. "Don't count on it," Dan said. "For every casualty or deserter we've seen 20 or 30 who are still with the program, and God knows how many are waiting in this Kashwaki place." "Don't count it out either," Jordan said from his place beside Tom. He spoke a little sharply. "A bug in the program? A worm is not a small thing. It can start out as a minor pain in the ass, and then boom, everything's down. I play this game, Star Mag. Well, I used to play it, and this sore sport in California got so mad about losing all the time that he put a worm in the system and it took down all the servers in a week. Almost 500,000 gamers back to computer cribbage because of that jamhead." "We don't have a week, Jordan," Denise said. "I know," he said, "and I know they're not all apt to go wheels up overnight, but it's possible. And I won't stop hoping. I don't want to end up like Ray." He stopped. hoping. A single tear rolled down Jordan's cheek. Tom gave him a hug. "You won't end up like Ray," he said. "You're going to grow up to be like Bill Gates." I don't want to grow up to be like Bill Gates," Jordan said hoarsely. "I bet Bill Gates had a cell phone. In fact, I bet he had a dozen." He sat up straight. "One thing I'd give a lot to know is how so many cell phone transmission towers can still be working when the fucking power's down." "FEMA," Dan said hollowly. Tom and Jordan turned around to look at him, Tom with a tentative smile on his lips. Even Clay glanced up into the rearview mirror. "You think I'm joking?" Dan said. "I wish I was. I read an article about it in the news magazine while I was in the doctor's office, waiting for that disgusting exam where he puts a glove on and then goes prospecting." "Please," Denise said. "Things are bad enough. You can skip that part. What did the article say?" "That after 9/11, FEMA requested and got a sum of money from Congress. I don't remember how much, but it was in the tens of millions, to equip cell phone transmission towers nationwide with long-life emergency generators to make sure the nation's ability to communicate wouldn't go to hell in the event of coordinated terrorist attacks." Dan paused. "I guess it worked." "FEMA," Tom said. "I don't know whether to laugh or cry." "I'd tell you to write your congressman, but he's probably insane," Denise said. "He was insane well before the polls," Tom answered, but he spoke absently. He was rubbing the back of his neck and looking out the window. "FEMA," he said. "You know, it sort of makes sense. Fucking FEMA." Dan said, "I'd give a lot just to know why they've made such a business of collaring us and bringing us in. And making sure the rest of us don't follow Ray's example," Denise said. "Don't forget that." She paused. "Not that I would. Suicide's a sin. They can do whatever they want to me here, but I'm going to heaven with my baby. I believe that." "The Latin's the part that gives me the creeps," Dan said. "Jordan, is it possible that the phoners could take old stuff? Stuff from before the pulse, and incorporate it into their new programming if it fit their, I don't know, their long-term goals?" "I guess," Jordan said. "I don't really know because we don't know what sort of commands might have been encoded in the pulse. This isn't like ordinary computer programming in any case. It's self-generating, organic, like learning. I guess it is learning. It satisfies the definition," the head would say, "only they're all learning together because of the telepathy," Tom said. "Right," Jordan agreed. He looked troubled. "Why does the Latin give you creeps?" Clay asked, looking at Dan in the rearview mirror. "Tom said Latin's the language of justice, and I guess that's true, but this feels much more like vengeance to me." He leaned forward. Behind his glasses, his eyes were tired and troubled. "Because, Latin or no Latin, they can't really think. I'm convinced of that. Not yet, anyway. What they depend on instead of rational thought is a kind of hive mind born out of pure rage." "I object, Your Honor. Freudian speculation," Tom said, rather merrily. "Maybe Freud, maybe Lorenz," Dan said, "but give me the benefit of the doubt either way. Would it be surprising for such an entity, such as raging entity, to confuse justice and vengeance?" "Would it matter?" Tom asked. "It might to us," Dan said. "As someone who once taught a block course in vigilantism in America, I can tell you that vengeance usually ends up hurting more." 2. Not long after this conversation, they came to a place Clay recognized, which was unsettling because he had never been in this part of the state before, except once. in his dream of the mass conversions. Written across the road in broad strokes of bright green paint was "Kashwak equals no foe." The van rolled over the words at a steady 30 miles an hour as the phoners continued to stream past in their stately, witchy procession on the left. That was no dream, he thought, looking at the drifts of trash caught in the bushes at the sides of the road, the beer and soda cans in the ditches, bags that had contained potato chips, Doritos, and cheese doodles crackled under the tires of the little bus. The normies stood here in a double line, eating their snacks and drinking their drinks, feeling that funny itch in their heads, that weird sense of a mental hand pushing on their backs, waiting their turns to call some loved one who got lost in the pulse. They stood here and listened to the Raggedy Man say, "Left and right, 2 lines, that's correct, that's doing it, let's keep moving, we've got a lot of you to process after dark." Before dark. Up ahead the trees drew back on either side of the road. What had been some farmers' hard-worn grazeland for cows or sheep had now been flattened and turned down to bare earth by many passing feet. It was almost as though there had been a rock concert here. One of the tents was gone, blown away, but the other had caught on some trees and flapped in the dull early evening light like a long brown tongue. "I dreamed of this place," Jordan said. His voice was tight. "Did you?" Clay said. "So did I." The normies followed the Kashwak equals no foe signs, and this is what they came to, Jordan said. "It was like toll booths, wasn't it, Clay?" "Kind of," Clay said. "Kind of like toll booths, yeah." "They had big cardboard boxes full of cell phones," Jordan said. This was a detail Clay didn't remember from his own dream, but he didn't doubt it. Heaps and heaps of them, and every normie got to make a call. What a bunch of lucky ducks. "When did you dream this, Jordy?" Denise asked. "Last night." Jordan's eyes met Clay's in the rearview mirror. They knew they weren't going to be talking to the people they wanted to talk to. Down deep they knew, but they did it anyway. They took the phones anyway, took them and listened. Most of them didn't even put up a fight. "Why, Clay?" "Because they were tired of fighting, I suppose," Clay said. "Tired of being different. They wanted to hear Baby Elephant Walk with new ears." They were past the beaten-down fields where the tents had been. Ahead, a paved by-road split off from the highway. It was broader and smoother than the state road. The phoners were streaming up this byway and disappearing into a slot in the woods. Looming high above the trees, half a mile or so farther on, was a still, gantry-like structure Clay recognized at once from his dreams. He thought it had to be some sort of amusement attraction, maybe a parachute drop. There was a billboard at the junction of the highway and the byroad, showing a laughing family, Dad, Mom, Sonny, and little Sis, walking into a wonderland of rides, games, and agricultural exhibits. Northern Counties Expo Gala Fireworks Show October 5th. Visit Kashwak Hall, the North End, open 24/7, October 5th through 15th. You'll say, "Wow!" Standing below this billboard was the Raggedy Man. He raised one hand and held it out in a stop gesture. "Oh, Jesus," Clay thought, and pulled the minibus up beside him. The raggedy eyes of the Raggedy Man, which Clay hadn't been able to get right in his drawing at Gayton, looked simultaneously dazed and full of malevolent interest. Clay told himself it was impossible for them to appear both ways at the same time, but they did. Sometimes the dazed dullness was foremost in them, and a moment later it seemed to be that weirdly unpleasant avidity. "He can't want to get on with us." But the Raggedy Man did, it seemed. He lifted his hands to the door with the palms pressed together, then opened them. The gesture was rather pretty, like a man indicating, "This bird has flown." But the hands themselves were black with filth, and the little finger on the left one had been badly broken in what looked like 2 places. Gross. These are the new people, Clay thought. Telebaths who don't take baths. Don't let 'em on, Denise said. Her voice was trembling. Clay, who could see that the steady conveyor movement of phoners to the left of the bus had stopped, shook his head. No choice. They peek in your head and find out we're thinking about a fucking cell phone, Ray had said. Had almost snorted. What else is anyone thinking about since October 1st? Hope you're right, Ray, he thought, because it's still an hour and a half until dark. An hour and a half at least. He threw the lever that opened the door, and the Raggedy Man, torn lower lip drooping in its constant sneer, climbed aboard. He was painfully thin. The filthy red sweatshirt hung on him like a sack. None of the normies on the bus were particularly clean. Hygiene hadn't been a priority since the 1st of October, but the Raggedy Man gave off a ripe and powerful stench that almost made Clay's eyes water. It was the smell of strong cheese left to sweat it out in a hot room. The Raggedy Man sat down in the seat by the door, the one that faced the driver's seat, and looked at Clay. For a moment there was nothing but the dusty weight of his eyes and that strange, grinning curiosity. Could you imagine that smell? Just hearing that, makes me want to vomit. Yeah, that's super gross. But on that note, boys and girls, we are going to go to our first music break. And on this music break, we're going to be listening to my bestie, Miss Mia Savage, with her group Antidote for Savages, with Your Skeleton, Army Reality, Let Me Be Your Home, and Lemurian Crypto. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this music break.
shit that he brings anymore. You're mine. You're mine. Tonight. You're mine. In a sea of broken hearts, won't let you fall apart. We'll make a brand new start. When you're coming back, I wanna take a ride. I wanna show him love. I wanna knock him down. Come with me to our new reality. You don't need the shit that he brings anymore. You're mine. You're mine. Tonight. You're mine.
Welcome back. Welcome, crew. Thanks so much for hanging out with me tonight as I read Stephen King's book, Cell. It's been pretty good so far. We're getting close to the end. I wonder what we're going to read next. But, yeah, that was the lovely and talented Miss Mia Savage, who I actually got to have lunch with today. She came up and visited from Phoenix. She's got to leave tomorrow, unfortunately, and life is crazy, so we only got to see each other for lunch, but hopefully she'll be coming back in September and we'll have some ghost hunting videos to share with you. I'm going to try to be doing more of that. It seems like since COVID, oh man, going through so much trauma and stuff, with death on the horizon, 5% recovery rate, etc., that it's been really hard to get back into the paranormal game. I'm going to try my best. But yeah, we're going to try to get back on track and do that and possibly start doing tours. They do have tours here, but they don't have interactive tours where you can use the equipment to do the paranormal investigating. Alright, so before we pop back into our book, I want you to hear the thought of the hour. So the thought is, a friend is one who comes to you when all others leave. True that. And yeah, we dump on each other as far as like, release all of our stuff that we can't talk to other people about, and then apologize to each other because, oh, I'm sorry for doing that, like, you've gone through this stuff too, but that's okay with me. I'm your friend, that's what I'm here for. Dump away, baby, dump away, because I feel you for what you're going through. Alright, let's hop back into this. I have my book on the stand here, not my book, my phone on the stand here, and all these cute pictures of my kids keep popping up. Them as freaking little tiny babies and stuff. Oh, I should turn it over. It's too cute. Then Tom spoke in a thin, outraged voice Clay had heard him use only once before, when he'd said, "That's it! Everybody out of the pool!" to the plump, Bible-toting woman who'd started preaching her end-time sermon to Alice. "What do you want from us? You have the world, such as it is. What do you want from us?" The Raggedy Man's ruined mouth formed the word even as Jordan said it, only that one word, flat and emotionless. Justice. "When it comes to justice," Dan said, "I don't think you have a clue." The Raggedy Man replied with a gesture, raising one hand to the feeder room, palm up, index finger pointing. "Get rolling." When the bus started to move, most of the phoners started to move again as well. A few more had fallen to fighting, and then in outside mirror, Clay saw others walking back down the expo feeder road toward the highway. "You're losing some of your troops," Clay said. The Raggedy Man made no reply on behalf of the flock. His eyes, now dull, now curious, now both, remained fixed on Clay, who fancied he could almost feel that gaze walking lightly over his skin. The Raggedy Man's twisted fingers, gray with dirt, lay on the lap of his grimy blue jeans. Then he grinned. Maybe that was answer enough. Dan was right, after all. For every phoner who dropped out, who went heels up, in Jordan's speak, there were plenty more. But Clay had no idea how many plenty more might entail until half an hour later, when the woods opened up on both sides and they passed beneath the wooden arch, reading, "Welcome to the Northern Counties Expo." 3. "Dear God," Dan said. Denise articulated Clay's own feelings better. She gave a low scream. Sitting across the narrow aisle of the little bus in the first passenger seat, the Raggedy Man only sat and stared at Clay, with the half-vacant malevolence of a stupid child about to pull the wings off of a few flies. "Do you like it?" His grin seemed to say. It's quite something, isn't it? The gang's all here. Of course, a grin like that could mean that, or anything. It could even mean, I know what you have in your pocket. Beyond the Arc was a midway and a batch of rides, both still being assembled at the time of the pulse, from the way that things looked. Clay didn't know how many of the Carney pitch tents had been erected, but some had blown away, like the pavilions at the checkpoint 6 or 8 miles back. And only half a dozen or so still stood, their sides seeming to breathe in the evening breeze. The Crazy Cups were half built, and so was the fun house across from it. Who Dare You To ran across the single piece of facade that had been erected. Skeletons danced above the words. Only the Ferris wheel and the parachute drop at the far end of what would have been the midway looked complete, and with no electric lights to make them jolly, they looked gruesome to Clay, less like amusement rides than gigantic implements of torture. Yet one light was blinking. He saw a tiny red beacon, surely battery-powered, at the top of the parachute drop. Well beyond the drop was a white building with red trim, easily a dozen barn lengths long. Loose hay had been heaped along the sides, amazing American flags fluttering in the evening breeze had been planted in this cheap rural insulation every 10 feet or so. The building was draped with swags of patriotic bunting and bore the legend, Northern Counties Expo, Kashwakamok Hall, in bright blue paint. But none of this was what had attracted their attention. Between the parachute drop and the Kashwakamok Hall were several acres of open ground. Clay guessed it was where the big crowds gathered for livestock exhibitions, tractor pulls, and fair day concerts, and, of course, the fireworks show that would both open and close the expo. It was ringed with light standards and loudspeaker poles. Now this broad and grassy mall was crammed with phoners. They stood shoulder to shoulder and hip to hip, their faces turned to watch the arrival of the little yellow bus. Any hope Clay had harbored of seeing Johnny or Sharon was gone in a moment. His first thought was that there had to be 5,000 people crowded beneath those dead light standards. Then he saw they had spilled into the grassy parking lots adjoining the main exhibition area as well, and revised his estimate upward. 8,000 at least. The Raggedy Man sat where some Newfield Elementary School third grader belonged, grinning at Clay with his teeth jutting through the split in his lip. Do you like it? That grin seemed to ask, and again, Clay had to remind himself that you could read anything into a grin like that. I'm just cringing thinking about that cut in his lip and the grinning, and Stephen King is just so good at painting grim, grotesque pictures, not just in videos, some of our favorite movies as kids, but in your mind. You can't unsee certain things, and I can see this, and it's gross. And I don't like it. It makes me cringe. Oh, yummy. So who's playing tonight? Vince Gill, or did you guys break the bank and get Alan Jackson? That was Tom. He was trying to be funny, and Clay gave him high marks for that, but Tom only sounded scared. The Raggedy Man was still looking at Clay, and a little vertical crease had appeared in the middle of his brow, as if something puzzled him. Clay drove the minibus slowly up the center of the midway toward the parachute drop and the silent multitude beyond. There were more bodies here. They reminded Clay of how you sometimes found heaps of dead bugs in the windowsills after a sudden cold snap. He concentrated on keeping his hands loose. He didn't want the Raggedy Man to see his knuckles turn white on the wheel. And go slow. Nice and easy does it. He's only looking at you. As for cell phones, What else has anyone been thinking about since October 1st? The Raggedy Man raised a hand and pointed one twisted, badly used finger at Clay. "No for you," Clay said in that other voice. "Insanus." "Yeah, no for me, no for none of us. We're all bozos on this bus," Clay said. "But you'll fix that, right?" The Raggedy Man grinned, as if to say that was right, but the little vertical line was still there, as if something still puzzled him. Maybe something rolling and tumbling around in Clay Rydell's mind? Clay looked up into the rearview mirror as they neared the end of the midway. "Tom, you asked me what the North End was," he said. "Forgive me, Clay, but my interest seems to have waned," Tom said. "Maybe it's the size of the welcoming committee?" "No, but this is interesting," Clay said, a little feverishly. "Okay, what is it?" Jordan asked. God bless Jordan, curious to the end. "The Northern Counties Expo was never a big deal in the 20th century," Clay said. "Just your standard little shit-pot Aggie fair with arts, crafts, produce, and animals over there in the Kashwakamok Hall, which is where they're going to put us, from the look of things." He glanced at the Raggedy Man, but the Raggedy Man neither confirmed nor denied. The Raggedy Man only grinned. The little vertical line had disappeared from his forehead. "Clay, look out," Denny said in a tight, controlled voice. He looked back through the windshield and stepped on the brake. An elderly woman with infected lacerations on both legs came swaying out of the silent crowd. She skirted the edge of the parachute drop, trampled over several prefab pieces of fun house that had been laid out but not erected at the time of the pulse, and broke into a shambling run aimed directly at the school bus. When she reached it, she began to hammer slowly on the windshield with filthy arthritis-twisted hands. What Clay saw in this woman's face wasn't the avid blankness he'd come to associate with the boners, but terrified disorientation, and it was familiar. "Who are you?" Pixie Dark had asked. Pixie Dark, who hadn't gone a direct blast of the pulse. "Who am I?" 9 fawners in a neat moving square came after the elderly woman, whose frantic face was less than 5 feet from Clay's own. Her mouth moved, and he heard 4 words, both with his ears and with his mind. "Take me with you." "We're not going anywhere you want to go, lady," Clay thought. Then the fawners grabbed her and took her back toward the multitude on the grassy mall. She struggled to get away, but they were relentless. Clay caught one flash of her eyes and thought they were the eyes of a woman who was in a purgatory only if she was lucky. More likely it was hell. Once more the Raggedy Man held out his hand, palm up, and index finger pointing. "Roll." The elderly woman had left a handprint, ghostly but visible, on the windshield. Clay looked through it and kept rolling. 4. "Anyhow," he said, "until 1999 the expo was no big deal. If you lived in this part of the world and wanted rides and games, carny stuff, you had to go down to the Freiburg Fair." He heard his own voice running as if on a tape loop. Talk for the sake of talk, and made him think of the drivers on the duck boat tours in Boston, pointing out the various sites. Then, just before the turn of the century, the State Bureau of Indian Affairs did a land survey. Everybody knew the expo grounds were right next door to the Saca Basin Res. What that land survey showed was that the north end of Kashwakamok Hall was actually on reservation land. Technically, it was in Micmac Indian territory. Ooh, haven't we heard Micmac before? Isn't that the same Indian tribe as Pet Cemetery? Ooh, creepy. Makes me want to do some reading on them, some investigating. The people running the expo were no dummies, and neither were the ones on the Micmac Tribal Council. They agreed to clean out the little shops from the north end of the hall and put in slots. All at once, the Northern Counties Expo was Maine's biggest fall fair. They had reached the parachute drop. Clay started to jog left and guide the little bus between the ride and the half-constructed funhouse, but the Raggedy Man patted his hand on the air, palms down. Clay stopped. The Raggedy Man stood up and turned to the door. Clay threw the lever and the Raggedy Man stepped off. Then he turned to Clay and made a kind of sweeping, bowing gesture. "What's he doing now?" Denise asked. She couldn't see from where she was sitting. None of them could. "He wants us to get off," Clay said. He stood up. He could feel the cell phone Ray had given him lying hard along his upper thigh. If he looked down, he would see its outline against the blue denim of his jeans. He pulled down the t-shirt he was wearing, trying to cover it. A cell phone. So what? Everybody's thinking about them. "Are we going to?" Jordan asked. He sounded scared. "Not much choice," Clay said. "Come on, you guys. Let's go to the fair." 5. The Raggedy Man led them toward the silent multitude. It opened for them, leaving a narrow aisle, not much more than a throat, from the back of the parachute drop to the double doors of Koshwakamok Hall. Clay and the others passed a parking area filled with trucks. New England Amusement Corporation was printed on the sides, along with a roller coaster logo. Then the crowd swallowed them. That walk seemed endless to Clay. The smell was nearly insupportable, wild and ferocious, even with the freshening breeze to carry the top layer away. He was aware of his legs moving. He was aware of the Raggedy Man's red hoodie ahead of him, but the hall's double doors, with their swags of red, white, and blue bunting, seemed to get no closer. He smelled dirt and blood, urine and shit. He smelled fermenting infections, burned flesh, the spoiled egg-white aroma of ooze and pus. He smelled clothes that were rotting on the bodies they draped. He smelled something else as well, something new. Calling it madness would have been too easy. "I think it's the smell of telepathy, and if it is, we're not ready for it. It's too strong for us. It burns the brain somehow, the way too much current will burn out the electrical system in a car or a—" "Help me with her," Jordan yelled from behind him. "Help me with her, she's fainting." He turned and saw that Denise had gone down on all fours. Jordan was on all fours beside her and had one of her arms over his neck, but she was too heavy for him. Tom and Dan couldn't get forward enough to help. The corridor cutting through the mass of phoners was too narrow. Denise raised her head, and for a moment her eyes met Clay's. The look was one of dazed incomprehension, the eyes those of a slugged steer. She vomited a thin gruel onto the grass, and her head dropped down again. Her hair fell around her face like a curtain. "Help me!" Jordan shouted again. He began to cry. Clay went back and started elbowing phoners in order to get on Denise's other side. "Get out of the way!" he shouted. "Get out of the way! She's pregnant! Can't you fools see she's pregnant?" It was a blouse he recognized first. The high-necked white silk blouse that he had always called Sharon's doctor shirt. In some ways he thought it was the sexiest garment she owned, partly because of the high prim neck. He liked her bare, but he liked to touch and squeeze her breast through that high-necked white silk blouse even more. He liked to bring her nipples up until he could see them poking the cloth. Now Sharon's doctor shirt was streaked black with dirt in some places and maroon with dried blood in others. It was torn under the arm. "She doesn't look as bad as some," Johnny had written, but she didn't look good. She certainly wasn't the Sharon who had gone off to school in her doctor shirt and her dark red skirt while her estranged husband was in Boston about to make a deal that would put an end to their financial worries and make her realize that all her carping about his expensive hobby had been so much fear and bad faith. That anyway had been his resentful dreams, or semi-resentful dream. Her dark blonde hair hung in light strings. Her face had been cut in a number of places, and one of her ears looked torn half off. Where it had been, a flooded hole bored into the side of her head. Something she had eaten, something dark, clung in curds at the corner of her mouth. He had kissed almost every day for almost 15 years. She stared at him, through him, with that idiotic half-grin they sometimes wore. "Clay, help me!" Jordan almost sobbed. Clay snapped back. Sharon wasn't here. That was the thing to remember. Sharon hadn't been here for almost 2 weeks now, not since trying to make a call on Johnny's little red cell phone on the day of the pulse. "Give me some room, you bitch!" he said, and pushed aside the woman who'd been his wife. Before she could rebound, he slid into her place. "This woman's pregnant, so give me some fucking room." Then he slipped Denise's arm over his neck and got her up. "Go on ahead," Tom said to Jordan. "Let me in, I've got her." Jordan held up Denise's arm long enough for Tom to slip it over his own neck. He and Clay carried her that way the final 90 yards to the doors of Kashawakamak Hall, where the Raggedy Man stood waiting. By then, Denise was muttering that they could let her go. She could walk. She was all right, but Tom wouldn't. Neither would Clay. If he let her go, he might look back for Sharon, and he didn't want to do that. The Raggedy Man grinned at Clay, and this time that grin seemed to have more focus. It really was as though the two of them shared a joke. Sharon, he wondered, is Sharon the joke? It seemed not, because the Raggedy Man made a gesture that would have seemed very familiar to Clay in the old world, but seemed eerily out of place here. Right hand to the right side of his face, right thumb to ear, pinky finger to mouth. The phone mime. "No fo you," Denise said, and then, in her own voice, "Don't do that. I hate it when you do that." The Raggedy Man paid her no mind. He went on holding his right hand in the phone gesture, thumb to the ear and pinky to mouth, staring at Clay. For one moment, Clay was sure. He also glanced down at the pocket where the cell phone was stowed. Then Denise said it again, that horrible parody of his old routine with Johnny G. "No fo you." The Raggedy Man mimed, laughing, and his ruined mouth made it gruesome. Ugh. From behind him, Clay felt the eyes of the flock like a physical weight. Then the double doors of the Kashawakamak Hall opened on their own, and the mingled odors that came out, although faint, olfactory ghosts of other years, was still an anodyne to the stink of the flock. Spices, jams, hay, and livestock. It wasn't completely dark either. The battery-powered emergency lights were dim, but hadn't yet given out entirely. Clay thought that was pretty amazing, unless they had been saved especially for their arrival, and he doubted that. The Raggedy Man wasn't telling. He only smiled and gestured with his hands for them to go in. "It'll be a pleasure, you freak," Tom said. "Denise, are you sure you can walk on your own?" "Yeah, I've got one tiny bit of business first." She drew in breath, then spit in the Raggedy Man's face. "There, take that, you haggard with you fuckface." Raggedy Man said nothing. He only grinned at Clay. Just two fellows sharing a secret joke. 6. No one brought them any food, but there were snack machines galore, and Dan found a crowbar in the maintenance closet at the huge building's south end. The others were standing around and watching him pry open the candy machine. Of course we're in Sing, Clay thought. We eat baby Ruths for dinner, and tomorrow we'll have paydays for breakfast. When the music started, and it wasn't You Light Up My Life or Baby Elephant Walk coming out of the big speakers, ringing the grass and mall outside, not this time. It was something slow and stately that Clay had heard before, although not for years. It filled him with sadness and made goose flesh run up the soft insides of his arms. "Oh my God," Dan said softly. "I think it's Albinoni." "No," Tom said. "That's Pachelbel. It's the canon in D major." "Of course it is," Dan said, sounding embarrassed. "It's as if—" Denise began, then stopped. She looked down at her shoes. "What?" Clay asked. "Go on, say it. You're among friends." "It's like the sound of memories," she said. "As if it's all they have." "Yes," Dan said. "I suppose—" "You guys!" Jordan called. He was looking out one of the small windows. They were quite high, but by standing on his tiptoes he could just manage. "Come look at this!" They lined up and looked out at the wide mall. It was almost full dark. The speakers and the light standards gleamed, black sentinels against the dead sky. Beyond was the gantry shape of the parachute drop and its one lonely blinking light. And ahead, directly ahead, thousands of floaters had gone to their knees like Muslims about to pray while Johann Pachelbel filled the air with what could have been a substitute for memory. And when they lay down, they lay as one, producing a great soft swoop of noise and a fluttering displacement of air that sent empty bags and flattened soda cups twirling into the air. "Bedtime for the whole brain-damaged army," Clay said. "If we're going to do something, it's got to be tonight." What are we going to do?" Tom asked. "The two doors I tried are both locked. I'm sure that's true of the others as well." Dan held up the crowbar. "Don't think so," Clay said. "That thing may work just fine on the vending machines, but remember, this place used to be a casino." He pointed to the north end of the hall, which was lushly carpeted and filled with rows of one-armed bandits, their chrome muted in the glow of the failing emergency lights. "I think you'll find the doors are crowbar resistant." "The windows?" Dan asked, then took a closer look and answered his own question. "Jordan, maybe?" "Let's have something to eat," Clay said. "Then let's just sit down and be quiet for a while. There hasn't been enough of that." "And do what?" Denise asked, then took a closer look and answered her own question. "Well, you guys can do what you want," Clay said. "I haven't done any drawing in almost 2 weeks, and I've been missing it. I think I'll draw." "You don't have any paper," Jordan objected. Clay smiled. "When I don't have any paper, I draw in my head." Jordan looked at him uncertainly, trying to ascertain whether his leg was being pulled. When he decided it wasn't, he said, "That can't be as good as drawing on paper, can it? In some ways it's better. Instead of erasing, you just rethink." There was a loud clank, and the door of the candy machine swung open. "Bingo!" Dan cried and lifted his crowbar above his head. "Who said college professors were good for nothing in the real world?" "Look," Denise said greedily, ignoring Dan. "A whole rack of junior mints." She dug in. "Clay?" Tom asked. I don't suppose you saw your little boy, did you? Or your wife, Sandra?" "Sharon," Clay said. "I didn't see either of them." He looked around. Denise's ample hip. Were those Butterfingers? Seven. Half an hour later, they had eaten their fill of candy and raided the soda machine. They had tried the other doors and found them all locked. Dan tried his crowbar and couldn't get purchase even at the bottom. Tom was of the opinion that although the doors looked like wood, they were very likely equipped with steel cores. "Probably alarmed, too," Clay said. Screw around with them too much, and the reservation police will come and take you away. Now the other four sat in a little circle on the soft casino carpeting among the slot machines. Clay sat on the concrete with his back against the double doors through which the Raggedy Man had ushered them, with that mocking gesture of his, "After you, see you in the morning." Clay's thoughts wanted to return to that other mocking gesture, the thumb and pinky phone line, but he wouldn't let them, at least not directly. He knew from long experience that the best way to go after such things was by the back door, so he leaned his head against the wood with the still cord hiding inside and closed his eyes and visualized a comic splash page. Not a page from Dark Wanderer. Dark Wanderer was kaput and nobody knew it better than him, but from a new comic, call it Cell, for want of a better title, a thrilling end-of-the-world saga of the phoner hordes versus the last few normies. Except that couldn't be right. It looked right if you glanced at it fast. The way the doors in this place looked like wood but weren't. The ranks of the phoners had to be seriously depleted. Had to be. How many of them had been lost in the violence immediately following the pulse? Half? He recalled the fury of that violence and thought, maybe more, maybe 60 or even 70%. Then attrition due to serious wounds, infection, exposure, further fighting, and just plain stupidity. Plus, of course, the flock killers. How many had they taken out? How many big flocks like this one were actually left? Clay thought they might find out tomorrow if the ones remaining all hooked up for one big execute the insane extravaganza. Much good the knowledge would do them. Never mind, boil it down. If you wanted backstory on the splash, the situation had to be boiled down enough to fit on a single narrative panel. It was an unwritten rule. The phoner's situation could be summed up in 2 words: bad losses. They looked a lot, hell, like a damned multitude, but probably the passenger pigeons had looked like a lot right up until the end, because they traveled in dark, sky-darkened flocks right up to the end. What nobody noticed was that there were fewer and fewer of those giant flocks. Until, that was, they were all gone. Extinct. Finito. Bye-bye. Plus, he thought, they've got this other problem now, this bad programming thing. This worm. What about that? All in all, these guys could have a shorter run than the dinosaurs. Telepathy, levitation, and all. Okay, enough backstory. What's your illo? What's your damn picture? The one that's going to hook them and draw them in. Why? Clay Rydell and Ray Huizinga, that's what. They're standing in the woods. Ray's got the Beth Nickerson 45 with a barrel under his chin, and Clay's holding a cell phone, of course. The one Ray lifted from the Girlyville quarry. Clay, terrified. Ray, stop. This is pointless. Don't you remember? Koshwax's cell did... No good. Kapow. And jagged yellow capitals across the foreground of the splash. And this one really is a splash because Arnie Nickerson has thoughtfully provided his wife with a kind of soft nose rounds they saw on the internet at the American Paranoia sites, and the top of Ray's head is a red geyser. In the background, one of those detailed touches for which Clay Rydell might have become famous in a world where the pulse never happened, a single terrified crow is lifting off from a pine branch. A damn good splash page, Clay thought. Corey, sure, would never have passed muster in the old comic code days, but instantly involving. And although Clay had never said that thing about cell phones not working beyond the conversion point, he would have if he'd thought of it in time. Only time had run out. Ray had killed himself so that the Raggedy Man and his phoner friends wouldn't see that phone in his mind, which was bitterly ironic. The Raggedy Man had known all about the cell whose existence Ray had died to protect. He knew it was in Clay's pocket, and he didn't care. Standing at the double doors, the Kashawakamak Hall, the Raggedy Man making that gesture, thumb to ear, curled fingers next to his torn and stubbly cheek, pinky in front of his mouth, using Denise to say it again to drive the point home. No foe, you. That's right, because Kashwak equals no foe. Ray had died for nothing, so why didn't that upset him now? Clay was aware he was dozing, as he often did when he drew inside his head, coming uncoupled, and that was all right, because he felt the way he always did just before picture and story became welded into one. Happy, like people before an anticipated homecoming, before journey's end and lovers' meeting. He had absolutely no reason to feel that way, but he did. Ray Huizinga had died for a useless cell phone. Or was it more than one? Now Clay saw another panel. This one was a flashback panel. You could tell by the scalloped edges. Cue on Ray's hand, holding the grimy cell phone and a slip of paper with a telephone number scrawled on it. Ray's thumb obscures everything but the main area code. Ray, OS. When the time comes, call the number on that slip. You'll know the time. I gotta hope you'll know. Can't call anybody from a cell in Kashawakamak, Ray, because Kashawak equals no foe. Just ask the president of Harvard. And to drive the point home, here's another flashback panel with those scalloped edges. It's Route 160. In the foreground is the little yellow bus with Main School District 98 Bayfield printed on the side. In the middle distance, painted across the road, is Kashwak equals no foe. Once again, the detail work is terrific. Empty soda cans lying in the ditch, a discarded t-shirt caught on a bush, and, in the distance, a tent flapping from a tree like a long brown tongue. Above the minibus are 4 voiceover balloons. These weren't the things they actually said. Even his dozing mind knew it, but that wasn't the point. Story making wasn't the point. Not now. He thought he might know the point when he came to it. Denise, VO. Is this where they... Tom, VO. Where they did the conversions? Correct. Get into line, Normie, make a call, and when you head on up to the expo flock, you're one of them. What a deal. Dan, VO. Why here? Why not on the expo grounds? Clay, VO. Don't you remember? Kashwak equals no foe. They line them up at the far edge of the cell coverage. Beyond here, nothing. Nada. Zip. 0 bars. Another panel. Close up on the Raggedy Man in all his pestiferous glory. Grinning with his mutilated mouth and summing everything up with one gesture, Ray had some bright idea that depended on making a call from the cell. It was so bright he completely forgot there's no coverage up here. I'd probably have to go to Quebec to get a bar on that phone he gave me. That's funny, but what's even funnier, I took it. What a sap! So whatever Ray had died for was pointless. Maybe, but here was another picture forming. Outside, Pokebell had given way to Fuhr, and Fuhr had given way to Vivaldi, pouring from speakers inside of the boomboxes. Black speakers against a dead sky, with the half-constructed amusement rides in the background. In the foreground, Kashawakamak Hall, with its bunting and cheap hay insulation. And as the final touch, the little piece of detail work from which Clay Rydell was already becoming known. He opened his eyes and sat up. The others were still in their circle on the carpet at the north end. Clay didn't know how long he'd been sitting against the door, but it had been long enough for his ass to go numb. You guys, he tried to say, but at first no sound would come out. His mouth was dry. His heart was pumping hard. He cleared his throat and tried again. You guys, he said, and they looked around. Something in his voice made Jordan scramble to his feet, and Tom wasn't far behind. Clay walked toward them on legs that didn't feel like his own. They were half asleep. He took the cell phone out of his pocket as he walked. The one Ray had died for because, in the heat of the moment, he had forgotten the most salient fact about Kashwakamok, up here at the North Counties Expo. These things didn't work. If it won't work, what good is it? Dan asked. He had been excited by Clay's excitement, but deflated in a hurry when he saw the object in Clay's hand wasn't a get-out-of-jail-free card, but only another goddamn cell phone. A dirty old Motorola with a cracked casing. The others looked at it with a mixture of fear and curiosity. Bear with me, Clay said. Would you do that? We've got all night, Dan said. He took off his glasses and began to polish them. Gotta spin it away somehow. Alright, so we're gonna stop there. I thought we were on to the next number as far as, like, not chapter, but sections of chapter, and yeah, we're still a ways off from that, and I don't want to get too far into the next hour. Alright, let me see where I need to make this mark. There it is. Alright, so on that note, boys and girls, we are going on our second music break. On this break, once more, we have the lovely and talented Miss Mia Savage with her group, her band, Antidote for Savages, which, like I've said in the past, she's like a little Trent Reznor. She does it all by herself. Hopefully, if she gets big as Trent Reznor someday, she'll be able to hire some epic musicians. But recording is all her, so she's going to be singing Not a Phase, The Bottom Line, Singing to Your Grave, and Bury Me in Heaven. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this music break.
Break the sound of this cycle.
survive. But we'll kill those good guys and try to tell us that they're innocent and let the demons run amok. But it doesn't matter, because it's just a ride, and we can change it anytime we want. It's all we need, a choice. No record, no work, no job, no savings or nothing. Just a choice right now between fear and love. Right now, between fear and love.
Welcome back, and thanks so much for hanging out with me tonight on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. That last song, Bury Me in Heaven, is like one of my favorites that she does. I don't know if it's because I enjoy singing along with it or what. I really dig that one. Alright, let's do the thought of the hour. Make sure that I'm Am I on the right path? I believe so. Nope. I have to turn the page. Okay. Those who have learned to disagree without being disagreeable have discovered the most valuable secret of the diplomat. And I must say, okay, do you guys remember back in the day when people could talk about, and it's always been a rule, never talk about religion and politics, blah, blah, blah. Well, I remember back in the day, like the early 90s, late 80s, even I'm not going to do that, but people could actually talk about religion and politics. And yes, there would be some arguments, but people were still family and friends. But it seems like today, if you don't agree with what somebody's saying, they will disown you as family, they will unfriend you, and you will be blocked. What happened to discussions where we could talk about things and still be friends and family? Like, what? Well, Janae, I don't get it. I don't get it. Yeah, that's crazy. What do you guys think? To me, it's just sad. Hopefully, we'll have an enema of the government. We'll start from the bottom and work our way up and just get rid of basically 98% of the people in government, as far as, politicians, House, Senate, White House staff, president, whatever. Nix it all. Get rid of it all. Mayors, governors, so many. There should be a vote. Let's get rid of this and keep this. If we did that as people in our world, we'd get so far back. I mean, have you ever watched ants? If we all work together, we could get something done. Because alone, we're small compared to the grasshoppers. Us as ants, we're small compared to them, but together, we are so powerful. Anyways, I just thought I'd leave it on that, because, yeah, I like this thought. And I'm glad I didn't read it before I said it, because I might have gone on to the next page. Just to save some, but yeah. I'm glad I did read that without reading it beforehand. Alright, let's hop back into our book, So, with our author, Mr. Stephen King. You stopped at that Newfield trading post for something to eat and drink, Clay said, and you found the little yellow school bus. That seems like a zillion years ago, Denise said. She stuck out her lower lip and blew hair off of her forehead. Ray found the little bus, Clay said. Seats about 12. 16, actually, Dan said. It's written on the dashboard. Man, they must have teensy schools up here. Seat 16 with space behind the rear seat for packs or a little light luggage for field trips. Then you moved on, and when you got to the Gurleyville Quarry, I bet it was Ray's idea that you should stop there, huh? It was, Tom said. He thought we could use a hot meal and a rest. How'd you know that, Clay? I knew it because I drew it, Clay said, and this was close to true. He was seeing it as he spoke. Dan, you and Denise and Ray wiped out 2 flocks, the first with gasoline, but on the second you used dynamite. Ray knew how because he'd used it working highway jobs. Fuck, Tom breathed. He got dynamite in that quarry, didn't he? While we were sleeping, and he could have. We slept like the dead. Ray was the one who woke us up, Denise said. Clay said, I don't know if it was dynamite or some other explosive, but I'm almost positive he turned that little yellow bus into a rolling bomb while you were sleeping. Oh, is something about to happen? Oh my gosh. Okay. It's in back, Jordan said. In the luggage compartment. Clay nodded. Jordan's hands were clenched into fists. How much do you think? No way of knowing until it goes up, Clay said. Let me see if I am following this, Tom said. Outside, Vivaldi gave way to Mozart, a little night music. The phoners had definitely evolved past Debbie Bloom. He stowed a bomb in the back of the bus, then somehow rigged a cell phone as a detonator? Oh. Clay nodded. That's what I believe. I think he found 2 cells in the quarry office. For all I know, there could have been half a dozen. For crew use, God knows they're cheap enough nowadays anyway. He rigged one to a detonator on the explosives. That's how the insurgents used to set off roadside bombs in Iraq. Maybe that's why he offed himself, and maybe that's why he was smoking so much too. It's all coming together now. It's all making sense. Aw, poor Ray. He had to off himself because if he hadn't, then, the Hobbit guy, the guy in the red sweat shit, he would be able to read his mind and know what he had done and get rid of the bus. Oh my gosh. Oh my god, Becca. Everything's making sense now. I get it. I really get it. He did all that. Oh wait, hold on. Clay nodded. That's what I believe. I think he found 2 cells, yada yada. Heard that from the crew. God knows they're cheap enough nowadays. Anyway, he rigged one to a detonator on the explosives. It's how the insurgents used to set off roadside bombs in Iraq. He did all that while we were sleeping, Denise said, and didn't tell us? Clay said he kept it from you so it wouldn't be in your minds, and killed himself so it wouldn't be in his, Dan said. Then he uttered a burst of bitter laughter. Okay, he's a goddamn hero. The only thing he forgot is that cell phones don't work beyond the place where they put up their goddamn conversion tents. I bet they barely work there. Right, Clay said. He was smiling. That's why the Raggedy Man let me keep this phone. He didn't know what I wanted it for. I'm not sure they exactly think anyway. Not like us, they don't, Jordan said, and they never will. But he didn't care because he knew it wouldn't work. I couldn't even post myself with it because Koshwork equals no foe Nini. Then why the smile? Denise asked. Because I know something he doesn't, Clay said. Something they don't. He turned to Jordan. Can you drive? Jordan looked startled. Hey, I'm 12. I mean, hello? You've never driven a go-kart, an ATV, a snowmobile? Well, sure. There's a dirt go-kart track at this pitch and putt place outside Nashua, and once or twice, that'll work. We're not talking about very far, assuming, that is, they left the bus at the parachute drop, and I bet they did. I don't think they know how to drive anymore, and they know how to think, Tom said. Clay, have you lost your mind? No, he said. They may hold their mass flock killer executions in that virtual stadium of theirs tomorrow, but we're not going to be part of it. We're getting out of here. And then I was also wondering, I know he said justice, and I know that they killed 2 different flocks, but could that be the little part of the mind that it could be the human mind wanting to have justice for the whole phone thing? I was hoping that's what it was, and they were going to get whoever did it, but I'm probably wrong. That's probably, I guess, them, like they said. 9. The little windows were thick, but Dan's crowbar was a match for the glass. He, Tom, and Clay took turns with it, working until all the shards were knocked out. Then Denise took the sweater she'd been wearing and laid it over the bottom of the frame. You okay with this, Jordan? Tom asked. Jordan nodded. He was frightened. There was no color in his lips at all, but seemed composed. Outside, the phone was lullaby music, had cycled around Pockerbelly's canon again, what Denise had called the sound of memories. I'm okay, Jordan said. I will be anyway, I think. Once I get going. Clay said Tom might be able to squeeze through. Behind Jordan's shoulder, Tom looked at the small window, no more than 18 inches wide, and shook his head. I'll be okay, Jordan said. All right. Tell it to me again. Go around and look in the back of the bus. Make sure there's explosives, but don't touch any of it. Look for the other cell phone. Right. Make sure it's on, and if it's not, I know, turn it on. Jordan gave Clay an I'm no dummy look, then start the motor. No, don't get ahead of yourself. Pull the driving seat forward so I can reach the pedals, then start the motor. Right. Drive between the parachute drop and the fun house. Go super slow. I'll run over some pieces of the fun house and they may break, snap under the tires, but don't let that stop me. Right on. Yeah, you got it. Get as close to them as I can. Yeah, that's right. Then come around back again to this window so the hall is between you and the explosion. What we hope will be an explosion, Dan said. Clay could have done without this, but he let it pass. He stooped and kissed Jordan on the cheek. I love you, you know, he said. Jordan hugged him briefly and fiercely, then Tom, then Denise. Dan put out his hand and said, oh, what the hell, then enfolded Jordan in a bear hug. Clay, who had never warmed very much to Dan Hartwick, liked him better for that. Good job, Dan. 10. Clay made a step with his hands and boosted Jordan up. Remember, he said, it's going to be like a dive, only into hay instead of water. Hands up and out. Jordan put his hands over his head, extended them through the broken window and into the night. His face underneath his thick fall of hair was paler than ever. The first red blemishes of adolescence stood out there like tiny burns. He was scared, and Clay didn't blame him. He was in a 10-foot drop, and even with the hay, the landing was apt to be hard. Clay hoped Jordan would remember to keep his hand out and his head tucked. He'd do none of them any good lying beside Kashwakamak Hall with a broken neck. You want me to count 3, Jordan? He asked. Fuck no. Just do it before I pee myself. Then keep your hands out. Go! Clay cried, and thrust his locked hands upward. Jordan shot through the window and disappeared. Clay didn't hear him land. The music was too loud. The others crowded up to the window, which was just above their heads. Jordan? Tom called out. Jordan, you there? For a moment there was nothing, and Clay was sure Jordan really had broken his neck. Then he said shakily, I am here. Jeez, that hurts. I crumbled my elbow, the left one. The arm's all weird. Wait a minute. They waited. Denise took Clay's hand and squeezed it hard. It moves, Jordan said. It's okay, I guess, but maybe I ought to see the school nurse. They all laughed too hard. Tom had tied the bus's ignition key to a double line of thread from his shirt and the thread to the buckle of his belt. Now Clay laced his fingers together again, and Tom stepped up. I'm going to lower the key to you, Jordan. Ready? Yeah. Tom gripped the edge of the window, looked down, and then lowered his belt. Okay, you got it? He said. Now listen to me. All we ask is do it if you can. If you can't, no penalty minutes. Got that? Yeah. Go on then, scat. He watched a moment, then said, he's on his way. God help him. He's a brave kid. Put me down. 11. Jordan had gone out on the side of the building away from the roosting flock. I'm going to turn this down just a smidge. I really like this background music, but it can be a bit of a bag. Clay, Tom, Denise, and Dan crossed the room to the midway side. The three men tipped the already vandalized snack machine over on its side and shoved it against the wall. Clay and Dan could easily see out the side and shoved it. Again, high windows they could see through by standing on it, Tom by standing on tiptoes. Clay added a crate so Denise could see as well, praying she wouldn't topple off it and go into labor. That's like the last thing they need. They saw Jordan cross the edge of the sleeping multitude, stand there a minute as if debating, then move off to his left. Clay thought he continued seeing movement long after his rational mind told him that Jordan must be gone, skirting the edge of the massive flock. How long will it take him to get back, do you think? Tom asked. Clay shook his head. He didn't know. It depended on so many variables. The size of the flock? Was it only one of them? What if they looked in the back of the bus? Denise asked. What if Jordy looks in the back of the bus and there's nothing there? Dan asked, and Clay had to restrain himself from telling the man to keep his negative vibe to himself. Can you just keep it positive, man? Time passed, giving itself up by inches. The little red light on the tip of the parachute drop blinked. Buck Bailey once more gave way to Theater, and Theater to Vivaldi. Clay found himself remembering the sleeping boy who had come spilling out of the shopping cart. How the man with him, probably not his father, had sat down with him at the side of the road and said, Gregory, kiss it. Make it all better. He remembered the man with the rucksack listening to Baby Elephant Walk. I'm going to have to look that up because I have no idea what the song is. And saying, Dodge had a good time too. He remembered how, in the bingo tins of his childhood, the man with the microphone would invariably claim, It's the sunshine vitamin, when he pulled B12 out of the hopper with the dancing ping pong balls inside, even though the sunshine vitamin was D. Gotta have that D. The time now gave itself up in what seemed quarter inches, and Clay began losing hope. If they were going to hear the sound of Bus's engine, they should have heard it by now. It's gone wrong somehow, Tom said in a low voice. Maybe not, Clay said. He tried to keep his heart's heaviness out of his voice. I agree with Clay. Give the boy time. Maybe he had to stop and recoup. He's only 12. I thought he was older. I thought he was like 15 or something, but shoot, he's 12. Oh, let's give him time. Let's breathe. Let's take a breath. No, Tommy's right, Denise said. She was on the verge of tears. I love him to death, and he is ballsier than Lord Satan on his first night in hell, but if he was coming, he'd be on his way by now. Dan's take was surprisingly positive. We don't know what he might have run into. Just take a deep breath and try to put your imaginations on hold. Could you please? Come on. Clay tried and failed. Now the seconds dripped by. Schubert's Ave Maria boomed through the big concert speakers. He thought, I would sell my soul for some honest rock and roll. Chuck Berry doing Oh Carol, you two doing When Love Comes to Town. Outside nothing but dark and stars and that one tiny red battery-driven light. Loose me up over here, Tom said, hopping down from the snack machine. I'll squeeze through that window somehow and see if I can't go get him. Clay began, Tom. If I was wrong about there being explosives in the back of the bus, fuck the back of the bus and fuck the explosives, Tom said, distraught. I just want to find your... Hey, Dan shouted, and then, hey, all right, baby now. He slammed out one fist against the wall beside the window. Clay turned and saw headlights had bloomed in the dark. A mist had begun to rise from the blanket of comatose bodies. On the acres of mall and buses, headlights seemed to be shining through the smoke. They flickered bright, then dim, then bright again, and Clay could see Jordan with brilliant clarity, sitting in the driver's seat of the minibus and trying to figure out which controls did which. Now the headlights began to creep forward, high beams. Yeah, honey, Denise breathed. Do it, my sweetheart. Stand on her crate. She grabbed Dan's hand on one side and Clay's on the other. You're beautiful. Just keep on coming. The headlights jogged away from them, now illuminating the trees far to the left of the open space of its carpet of phoners. What's he doing? Tom almost moaned. I'm going to pause there, and I think personally he's going around. He decided to go around the thing because everything's getting squishy and, there's not really good groundage as far as tires and making traction. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's all I can think of. Why he'd be turning. Why would he be turning? Okay, let me see. Where are we? That's where the side of the funhouse takes a jog, Clay said. It's all right. He hesitated. I think it's all right. If his foot doesn't slip, if he doesn't mix up the brake and the accelerator, run the bus into the side of the damn funhouse and stick it there. They waited, and the headlights swung back, spearing the side of Kashwakamot Hall on the dead level. And in the glare of the high beams, Clay saw why it had taken Jordan so long. Not all the phoners were down. Dozens of them, the ones with bad programming, he assumed, were up and moving. They walked aimlessly toward any and every point of the compass, black silhouettes moving outward in expanding ripples, struggling to make their way over the bodies of the sleepers, stumbling, falling, getting up and walking on again while Schubert's Avenue filled the night. One of them, a young man with a long red gash running across the middle of his forehead like a worry line, reached the hall and felt his way along the side like a blind man. That's far enough, Jordan, Clay murmured as the headlights near the speaker standards on the far side of the open area. Park it and get your ass back here. It seemed that Jordan heard him. The headlights came to a stop. For a moment, the only things moving out there were the restless shapes of the wakeful phoners and the mist rising from the warm bodies of the others. Then they heard the bus's engine rev. Even over the music they heard it, and the headlights leaped forward. No, Jordan, what are you doing? Tom screamed. Denise recoiled and would have tumbled off her crate if Clay hadn't caught her from around the waist. The bus jounced into a sleeping flock. Onto the sleeping flock. The headlights began to pogo up and down, now pointing at them, now lifting briefly upward, now coming back to dead level again. The bus slewed left, came back on course, then slewed right. For a moment, one of the nightwalkers was illuminated in its four glaring high beams as clearly as something cut from black construction paper. Clay saw the phoner's arms go up as if it wanted to signal a successful field goal. And it's good! And then it was born under the bus's charging room. Jordan drove the bus into the middle of them, and there it stopped, headlights glaring, grill dripping. By raising a hand to block the worst of the shine, Clay was able to see a small dark form, distinguishable from the rest of its agility and purpose, emerge from the side door of the bus and begin making its way towards Kashwakamot Hall. Then Jordan fell, and Clay thought he was gone. A moment later, Dan rapped, "There he is, there!" And Clay picked him up again, 10 yards closer and considerably to the left of where he lost sight of the kid. Jordan must have crawled for some distance over the sleeping bodies before trying his feet again. Heck yeah, dude. Like, on all fours, you have more stability and momentum than two when you're trying to make it across bodies, I have to say. Don't ask me how I know that. When Jordan came back into the hazy cone of radiance thrown by the bus's headlights, tacked to the end of the 40-foot shadow, they could see him clearly for the first time. Not his face because of the backlight, but the crazy, graceful way he was running over the bodies of the phoners. The ones who were down were still dead to the world. The ones who were awake but not close to Jordan paid no attention. Several of those were close, however. made grabs at him. Jordan dodged 2 of these, but the third, a woman, got him by the tangled mop of his hair. "Let him alone!" Clay roared. He couldn't see her, but he was insanely positive it was the woman who had once been his wife. "Let him go!" She didn't. But Jordan grabbed her wrist, twisted it, went to one knee, and scrambled past. The woman made another grab, just missed the back of his shirt, and then tottered off in her own direction. "Bye, bitch!" Many of the infected phoners Clay saw were gathering around the bus. The headlights seemed to be drawing them in. Clay leaped off the snack machine. This time it was Dan Hartlick who saved Denise from a tumble, and grabbed the crowbar. He leaped back up and smashed out the window he'd been looking through. "Jordan!" he bawled. "Around back! Go around back!" Jordan looked up at the sound of Clay's voice and tripped over something. A leg, an arm, maybe a neck? As he was getting back up, a hand came up out of the breathing darkness and clutched the kid's throat. "What?" "Please God, no," Tom whispered. Jordan lunged forward like a fullback, trying for the first down, pistoning him with his legs, and broke the hand's grip. He stumbled onward. Clay could see his staring eyes and the way his chest was heaving. As he neared the hall, Clay could hear Jordan's sobbing gasp for air. That poor kid, oh my gosh. Never make it, he thought. Never, and he's so close now, so close. But Jordan did make it. The 2 phoners currently staggering along the side of the building showed no interest in him at all as he lunged past them and around to the far side. The 4 of them were off the snack machine at once and racing across the hall like a relay team, Denise and Rebelli in the lead. Well, that girl is quick, let me tell you what. "Jordan?" she cried, bouncing up and down with her tippy toes. "Jordan, Jordy, are you there? For Christ's sake, kid, tell us you're there." He tore a great gasp of breath out of the air. "Here!" Another whipping gasp. Clay was distantly aware of Tom laughing and pounding him on the back. "Never knew. Whew. Running over people was so hard." "What did you think you were doing?" Clay shouted. It was killing him not to be able to grab the kid. First to embrace him, then to shake him, then to kiss him all over his stupid brave face. Killing him to not even be able to see him. I said get close to them, not drive right the fuck into them. I did it. Whoop! For the head. There was defiance as well as breathlessness in Jordan's voice now. They killed the head. Them and their raggedy man. Them and their stupid president of Harvard. I wanted to make them pay. I want him to pay. Oh, we got some justice there. "What took you so long to get going?" Denise asked. "We waited and waited." "There are dozens of them up and around," Jordan said. "Maybe hundreds. Whatever's wrong with them, or right, or just changing, it's spreading really fast now. They're walking every which way like totally lost. I had to keep changing course, and I ended up coming to the bus from halfway down the midway then." He laughed breathlessly. "It wouldn't start. Do you believe it? I turned the key and got nothing but a click every time. I just about freaked out, but I wouldn't let myself, because I knew the head would be disappointed if I did that. I'm thinking maybe he didn't push the clutch in or something." "Ah, Jordy," Tom breathed. "You know what it was? I had to buckle the stupid seatbelts." "Oh, that was pretty close. You don't need them for the passenger seat, but the bus won't start unless the driver's wearing his. Anyway, I'm sorry it took me so long, but here I am." "And maybe assume that the luggage compartment wasn't empty?" Dan asked. "You can assume the shit out of that. It's full of what looked like red bricks, stacks and stacks of them." Jordan was getting his breath back now. "They're under a blanket. There's a cell phone lying on top of them. Ray attached it to a couple of those bricks with the elastic strap like a bungee cord. The phone's on, and it's the kind with a port, like for a fax or so, and it can download data to a computer. The power cord runs down into the bricks. I didn't see it, but I bet the detonator's in the middle." He grabbed another deep breath. And there were bars on the phone. 3 bars. Clay nodded. He'd been right. Kashwakamak was supposed to be a cell-dead zone. Okay, I'm going to pause there because I was thinking, okay, maybe it is at the base, but what if you climbed towers or something and then got some reception that way? What a name. The phoners had plucked that knowledge from the heads of certain normies and had used it. The Koshwak equals no foe graffiti had spread like smallpox. But had any of the phoners actually tried making a cell call from Expo Fairgrounds? Of course not. Why would they? When you were telepathic, phones were obsolete, right? And when you were one member of the flock, one part of the whole, they became doubly obsolete, if such a thing was possible. But cell phones did work within this one small area, and why? Because the carnies were setting up. That was why. Carnies working for an outfit called the New England Amusement Corporation. And in the 21st century, carnies like rock concert roadies, touring stage productions, and movie crews on location depended on cell phones, especially in isolated places where landlines were in short supply, where there are no cell phone towers to relay signals onward and upward. Fine. They would pirate the necessary software and install one of their own. Illegal? Of course, but judging by the 3 bars Jordan was reporting, it had been workable, and because it was battery powered, it was still workable. They had installed it on the Expo's highest point. They had installed it on the trip to the parachute drop. And that's what I'm thinking, like, perhaps one of them is going to have to climb up to where that light is on the parachute drop. So not only is it up there where people for miles around or whatever can see it, someone trying to get cell reception to go however many yards, hundreds of yards away to the bus where the bomb is, could get reception if they don't already have it. I can't believe he didn't look at the phone and be like, are there towers? 12. Dan recrossed the hall, got up on the snack machine, and looked out. They're 3 deep around the bus, he reported. 4 deep in front of the headlights. It's like they think there's some big pop star hiding inside. The ones they're standing on must be getting crushed. He turned to Clay and nodded at the dirty Motorola cell phone Clay was now holding. If you're going to try this, I suggest you try it now, before one of them decides to get in and try driving the damn bus away. I should have turned it off, but I thought the headlights would go out if I did, Jordan said, and I wanted them to see by... It's okay, Jordan, Clay said. No harm done. I'm going to... But there was nothing in the pocket from which he'd taken the cell phone. The scrap of paper with the telephone number on it was gone. What the crack? Oh my god. Maybe look at the history or something? This is so stressful. I can't believe this. No way, dude. 13. Clay and Tom were looking for it on the floor, frantically looking for it on the floor, and Dan was dolefully reporting from atop the snack machine that the first phoner had just stumbled on board the bus when Denise bellowed, "Stop! Shut up!" They all stopped what they were doing and looked at her. Clay's heart was fluttering high in his throat. He couldn't believe his own carelessness. Ray died for that, you stupid shit. Part of him kept shouting it at the rest of him. He died for it, and you lost it. Denise closed her eyes and put her hands together over her bowed head. Then, very rapidly, she chanted, Tony, come around. Something's lost that can't be found." "What the fuck is that?" Dan asked. He sounded astonished. "A prayer to St. Anthony," she said calmly. "I learned it in parochial school. It always works." "Give me a break," Tom almost groaned. She ignored him, focusing all her attention on Clay. "It's not on the floor, is it?" I don't think so, no. Another two just got on the bus, Dan reported, and the turn signals are going. So one of them must be sitting at the... Will you please shut up, Dan? Denise said. She was still looking at Clay, still calm. And if you lost it on the bus or outside somewhere, it's lost for good, right? Yes, he said heavily. So we know it's not in either of those places. Why do we know that? Because God wouldn't let it be. I think my head's going to explode, Tom said in a strangely calm voice. Again, she ignored him. So, which pocket haven't you checked? I checked every... Clay began, then stopped without taking his eyes from Denise's. He invested the small watch pocket sewn into the larger right front pocket of his jeans. And the slip of paper was there. He didn't remember putting it there, but it was there. He pulled it out. Scrawled on it in the dead man's liberace printing was the number 207 919 9811. Thank Saint Anthony for me, he said. If this works, she said, I'll ask Saint Anthony to thank God. Didn't he? Tom said. She turned to him. Thank him for me too, he said. 14. Four of them sat together against the double doors through which they had entered, counting the still course to protect them. Jordan was crouched down in the back of the building, below the broken window through which he had escaped. What are we doing? What are we going to do if the explosion doesn't blow any holes in the side of this place? Tom asked. We'll think of something, Clay said. And if Ray's bomb doesn't go off, Dan asked. Drop back 20 yards and punt, Denise said. Go on, Clay. Don't wait for the theme music. He opened the cell phone, looked at the dark LED readout, and realized he should have checked for bars on this one before sending Jordan out. He hadn't thought of it. None of them had thought of it. Stupid. Okay, remember when I said climb up to the red light? Yeah, I think this is where we're going. What? Almost as stupid as forgetting he'd put the scrap of paper with a number written on it in his watch pocket. He pushed the power button now. The phone beeped. For a moment there was nothing, and then 3 bars appeared, bright and clear. He punched in the number, then settled his thumb lightly on the button called Call. Jordan, you ready back there? Yes? What about you guys? Clay asked. Just do it before I have a heart attack, Tom said. An image rose in Clay's mind, nightmarish in its clarity. Johnny G lying almost directly beneath the place where the explosive-laden bus had come to rest, lying on his back with his eyes open and his hands clasped on the chest of his Red Sox t-shirt, listening to the music while his mind rebuilt itself in some strange way. He swept it aside. Oh my gosh, that vision in my head, that is so dark. Tony, come around, he said for no reason whatsoever, and then pushed the button that called the cell phone in the back of the minibus. There was time for him to count Mississippi 1, Mississippi 2, before the entire world outside Kashwakamak Hall seemed to blow up, the roar swallowing Tommaso Albino's Adagio in a hungry blast. All the small windows lining the flock side of the building blew in. Brilliant crimson light shone through the holes. Then the entire south end of the building tore away in a hail of boards, glass, and swirling hay. The doors they were leaning against seemed to bend backward. Denise wrapped protective arms around her belly. From outside, a terrible hurt screaming began. For a moment, the sound ripped through Clay's head like the blade of a buzzsaw. Then it was gone. The screaming in his ears went on. It was the sound of people roasting in hell. Something landed on the roof. It was heavy enough to make the whole building shudder. Clay pulled Denise to her feet. She looked at him wildly, as if no longer sure who he was. Come on! He was shouting, but could hardly hear his voice. It seemed to be seeping through the wads of cotton. Come on, let's go! Let's get out! Tom was up. Dan made it halfway, fell back, tried again, and managed it the second time. He grabbed Tom's hand, Tom grabbed Denise's, linked three across, they shoveled to the gaping hole at the end of the hall. There they found Jordan standing next to a litter of burning hay and staring out at what a single cell phone had done. Could you imagine? Oh my gosh. That is so epic. Oh my goodness. I can hardly believe it. Oh my goodness. Oh, sorry for trying to get my outro pulled out here. You guys. What do you guys think about that? I know. We'll think that was epic. But thank you so much once again for hanging out with me tonight. I'm sending you hugs and love and positive energy. And I can feel you out there listening because I feel you. You're my fam. And thank you to all of our friends on Weird Paradox Media's Facebook, Spreaker, Twitter, YouTube, iHeartRadio, wherever you might be listening tonight. Beyond the Omniverse. I had a wonderful time. And seriously, I can't wait to do it again next weekend. Hopefully I'm still here. I have to recheck my dates for my Spreaker thing. Oh my gosh, I have to pay like $200-something on that, so I try to go and get my casino things. I don't remember if I told you this last night, but supposedly since it's been over 12 years, that business could be gone. It could be the newer business that, had I been there during the newer business, it'd still be there. And she's like, if it's with the old business, I think they just disseminated and your shares just got absorbed. I'm sure. Whatever you want to tell yourself, lady, but don't forget, fam, we are all in this together. Together, we can make the world a bit better. And together, my friends, we are Paradox Media because without you, there really is no us. Until next time, nighty night, love and light. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. And please don't work too hard this coming week. Don't take life too seriously. Enjoy every single minute you have on this earth. All of ya. All of ya.